May's DC Comics Solicits. We will dive in, and we do have a bunch of stuff to talk about. Some of the stuff we kind of revealed last week. I say we, they were revealed last week and we discussed them.
We broke all these stories.
Yes. Yes. But we'll work through the solicits as we always do. And when we get to the one milestone thing that's there, I'll tangent out into the other article about the other things that are related. So first up, just go by the order they're on the article here. If you're looking at Newsarama, in their list, Mr. Miracle: The Source of Freedom, issue 1. This is the 6-issue mini, with the sort of the reintroduction of Shiloh Norman as Mr. Miracle, with writing by Brandon Easton and art by Ifiko Ozio, if I'm pronouncing that remotely right. So Easton's been doing the backup, right, in the Superman books.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of know what to expect. Maybe not with the art, but you know what to expect with the writing at least. All right, Wonder Girl issue 1 is next. Now, we were looking forward to this, and we did some speculation last week due to some wording that suggested that it might have stopped being a mini and started being an ongoing, and that seems to be the case. So, good news. This is the Joelle Jones, both writing and on art, and Shara Floor in the present day, seeing what her, I assume, origin and...
Yeah, I just hope this doesn't go the same way as Catwoman did with Jones, almost biting off more. If she works a weave where she does, X amount of issues drawing, but as long as she keeps up the writing that's been in Future State, I'll be happy.
Yeah, dare I say, Catwoman almost kind of suffered a little bit by not really having that much buzz once it started coming out, whereas I think this already has insane buzz from Future State. People are all about Yara Flor right now.
I mean, I think we're all pretty much of the same opinion that Yara Flor is the best part of Future State, right?
Easy.
Yes.
So why wouldn't we want more of this?
Well, come on, let's not count Dick Stroke. More than that later.
Really, really, really nice, which I'm going to have to splurge the money on. The Bilkos Evely variant. Like,
you say,
come on.
You say splurge the money on. That's just the regular variant.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the card stock. So it's an extra $1.
It's an extra $1, but still.
When we're talking about splurging for variants, though, you could be talking significantly more than that.
Yeah, but it's $1 for a more rigid cover. Like.
Yeah, but it's Evely who happened to work on the hit comic book issue, Wonder Woman issue 8.
That's right.
Yes.
But no, I also love Evely's art, so like it's
there
like
it is very nice.
Yeah. So drawing Yara, like, this is, again, I haven't felt this way about a character since I started reading Kate Bishop, last year, which I know seems like just a jump on thing, but like Kate's great. It's an instant thing. So Yara, I feel DC now has not like they were trying to match, but I do feel the same energy.
What's funny is we're going to have Kate Bishop in a Disney Plus show by the end of the year, give or take, and then we're going to have Yara Flor on the CW, like probably mid-season next year. So
everything's coming up, Millhouse.
It is. Not Milestone, no. Nothing's coming up Milestone.
Everything's coming up Milestone. That is the opposite of Millhouse.
Next up is...
I can't wait for the angry tweets.
Future State Gotham issue 1. Which we talked about this, last week when it comes to news. This is the anthology.
The interesting part for me, though, about this is that it's going to be in black and white. It mentions it just in the solicit text, like it's going to be a black and white series.
The whole series, or just the first arc?
I mean, it says this black and white series, so I'm assuming beyond that. But I mean, they could change their mind. Yeah,
it has B&W listed right there in the solicit.
Interesting. So this is Josh Wilson and Dennis Culver writing with art by Yanis.
Well, Milo Giannis.
Yes, there you go. Milo Giannis. Anyway, so this is a continuation of the Red Hood story. So it's kind of weird that it's starting with Red Hood, and we still kind of want to read it. So credit to Williamson for making us want to continue that story. At least so far. We haven't read the second part yet, so maybe I'll shit the bed in part 2.
It could happen.
But so far we're not opposed to this. But anyway, but we know that the second arc might go on to be about next Batman. It might go on to be about Huntress. It might go on to be about Grifter even. Although Grifter's actually got back up in the anthology, the
So
actual
does Red Hood, though.
anthology one. That's true. Yeah, that's true. So that doesn't mean they can't double up with this book.
Yeah.
And then I've got a new thing that popped up this week, which is Legends of the Dark Knight issue 1. This is a digital first book, which is, again, it's physical issue out in May. It'll be starting a little bit earlier digitally. This is Derek Robertson writing, with art also by Derek Robertson. I'll read the text first, since this is a completely new thing. The iconic series Legends of the Dark Knight is back. Comic icons and Rising Stars alike will tell digital first stories across the Batman mythos, beginning with comics legend and co-creator of The Boys, Derek Robertson, writing and drawing an epic 3-issue supervillain crime drama. A new player has arrived on the scene in Gotham City and is selling deadly chemicals to the worst villains in town, Mr. Freeze and the Penguin, and even the Joker. It's up to Batman to stop the villains, track down the supplier, and save Gotham City once more. I mean, it sounds pretty, typical story-wise, but upcoming stories will have art by Stephanie Phillips, Brandon Thomas, Becky Cloonan, Matt Rosenberg's going to be joining, I assume, on writing, Brandon Easton, and more. So
I think what's interesting about that line you've just mentioned with all those creators is a lot of them are on Future State stories and Gotham stories specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Legends of the Dark Knight to me was always like, oh, we can go back and do Batman stories that are set early in his career, and still be kind of in continuity, but we're doing stuff earlier in the timeline. So we can do, his first meeting properly with a certain villain, or his first encounter with this or that. Or,
I mean, you could even go into the future a little bit if you wanted to.
I mean, you could.
I suspect this might be doing that more than the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the thing. And we talked about this, when the next Batman digital first came out. There's another one on here as well that I think it'll apply to, where I think we'll check this out on the show, but we'll check it out when it comes out in physical. Even if we are reading the digital version, we'll treat it as if we are reading the physical version, so there's enough to talk about, because the digital chapters are a bit on the slim side. The only thing we have to be careful of is that some digital books that go physical have 2 digital books per issue, and some have 3 per issue. You have to kind of watch and see what it is.
These ones are 2, they said in the announcement, which is kind of weird on the pricing. That's because they're 99 cents for the digital issues, but then it's a $3.99 print book, so it is like double the cost if you want it in print.
Pages and paper and staples cost money, I guess. That's my.
I mean, that is true, but still, that's quite the hike. It seems, anyway, at least to me.
What that says to me is that all the other books should go down in price digitally to have a similar.
Well, they tried
difference.
that for like 2 years. Remember?
Only in some books. They didn't try it in every book.
No, but quite a few went down like $1, didn't they?
I'd be more than happy for them to try it again.
Yeah. For anyone interested, these they did confirm it'll be the 10-page chapters digitally, because I think there is some coming up that are full issue length that will be digital as well.
Yeah.
But they're starting digitally April 2nd, so about 6 weeks before this first issue drops in print.
Yeah, so we'll look at it when it comes out physically, even if, I mean, I'll still be reading it digitally, but I'll be treating it as if I'm reading the physical one, which is a little confusing, but it just makes sense.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is how far behind this print will be, because by the time this issue drops in print, this entire first arc of 6 digital chapters, I'm assuming, will be over. Yeah,
and that's not that irregular, I don't think, for these digital books. It varies, obviously, wildly between them. There doesn't seem to be a set thing. It seems to be different for every book.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes sense. 2 10-page chapters, 1 20-page comic. Because comics, these days are usually 20 pages, a normal comic. So
yeah,
it makes sense. So that's Legends of the Dark Knight. And then Milestone Returns, Infinite Edition, Issue 0. What an obnoxious title. This is a slightly oversized. Like, I'm just playing into the joke now, right?
Did anyone have on their bingo card this week take shots at Milestone?
Not at all.
So this is about an annual size, 48-page book, $5. Written by Reginald Hoodlin, art by Dennis Cowan, Bill Sienkiewicz, and others. And this leads into 3 digital first books, which are coming later in the year, which I'll tell you about in a second. So this has got a main story, which is kind of just to reintroduce the Milestone comics and where they are now. The backup though is a 17-page primer story that was originally released online during the fandom event. So the actual back chunk of this is not new material per se. It's just relevant material.
It's 24-page of new story, and then the rest is that digital story put into print.
So that's what's coming out in May. So this is Milestone Returns Infinite Edition issue 0. And then the digital first that are coming later, which also got sort of a separate news item. Static's getting a book that's digital first. That's coming out. This was actually one that was already technically announced. It was meant to be coming out in February, this month, but obviously get pushed back to tie into the rest of all this stuff. But that's coming out in April, so this is still coming out a little bit before the one shot is. And then you have Icon and Rocket, which is coming out starting June 21st digitally. And then you have Hardware, which is coming out starting on August 23rd digitally. And these are 6-issue minis, which would lead me to believe they're probably just normal size.
They are. Well, we know for certain that Static is. They mentioned that is 20 pages per issue, and it's a reasonable assumption to assume that the others are, because they're all, one of 6.
Yeah, so you'd expect 6 normal sized issues.
Yes, but all still digital first, I believe.
My jokes aside, I actually do think it's quite smart to try and do normal comic book formats with these smaller characters. It probably wouldn't sell a lot of physical books. This is probably quite a smart thing to try.
Yeah, this is kind of what they had from the what started as the Walmart reprints, but have gone into original content since then.
Yeah,
which were they varied in page count between like 15 and 25, but they were standard page layout, not the half-page digital things. So. They've obviously got data that shows that it can work and can sell. So it definitely makes sense for them to try it more.
Yeah, and if we are going to try these, then we can just try them when they come out. We don't have to wait for the shorter chapters to pile up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and these don't even have print editions announced yet.
As of yet. They might just go straight to trade. It might be like the physical just go straight to trade, maybe.
That
would be pretty cool.
That's what they're doing with the Deceased digital. That's just going straight to a hardcover release. There's no print singles.
Yeah, so I can see that. Next up, we have a one-shot. DC love to occasionally do these big 100-page, $10 one-shots. This is coming from a fairly nice place, though. This is DC Festival of Heroes, the Asian Superhero Celebration Issue 1, with a long list of names. I think most of whom, if maybe not all, are Asian creators.
Yeah.
Would it seem so?
Yeah, it seems so. I mean, there's one or two that I don't actually know for sure, which is why I'm just putting in that maybe not every single one, but most of them definitely are. And yeah, so this is a one shot coming out in May, obviously. The cover's got Cassandra Cain on there. It's got Katana,
Ryan Choi.
Ryan Choi's in there. Cheshire's there.
Emiko.
New Superman's in the background there. So no, that's a nice idea.
Exactly how many Asian American heroes, or even just Asian heroes and villains, DC has until you put them all on one cover.
Yeah, and they're not like small characters.
No,
some of them are
really
pretty
cool.
prominent.
So I mean, it's obvious what the format is going to be. It's going to be a bunch of 8 to 10 page stories, give or take, with featuring these characters one by one. So
and it helps too that I like most of them. So if I wasn't already inclined by the creators. I like these characters.
It's a frustrating one for me because I'm annoyed by all the 100-page giants. Where most of them have maybe one story in that I like, and the rest are just fine. But at the same time, it's like I appreciate the effort here of what they're doing, of kind of actually pushing something positive rather than just here's a character.
I mean, I think either this week or next week had the Valentine's special. Probably this week.
It was this week.
I think it was this week.
Had the Valentine's special, and it was probably fine. But it's one of those things where we've got a week of books to read. Unless those 100-page things are actually seem like they might be important, or it's a quiet week, we tend to skip over them now just because they are just such a slog to add on to the regular week of books. I mean, I kind of want to do this one because it's coming from a really nice place. It's not just we're trying to make money, so we're going to.
Kind of depends how busy the week is still, doesn't it?
Yeah. But even then, I think in just good faith, if we wanted to, we could kind of break it up. If it is a busier week. If we really want to cover, because I do know Pete really does love Cassandra Cain as a character.
Oh, for sure.
The Ram V story is with a character from his Catwoman book, so there might be
that's neat.
some tie-in with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the names. Jean Lune Yang, Greg
Yang.
Pak. Greg Pak's a writer that I've been way into for a long time now. So
I've enjoyed Alyssa Wong. I think is doing the current Afra book over at Marvel for that stuff. I've been enjoying that.
But yeah, these are all names. Like again, like depending on the week, I'm looking at that week that it comes out, and it looks like it's the first week of May. Depending on how packed that is.
What's weird, it's probably just a typo in the solicit, but the date's actually one off because every other book that's out that week is the 4th. So that's actually is listed here as the Wednesday, but it's probably just a typo. It's probably just meant to be the 4th still.
I'm sure it's still going to be in comic shops with all the rest of the DC.
Yeah, it probably is. But I noticed that when I was looking through them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like it is a really cool thing that they're doing. Instead of like I think it was Connor that said instead of just a character, like they did a, I don't want to say a statement, but like, hey, look at all these cool characters that and look at some other creators.
It's really almost cool. I mean, I don't know if this necessarily applies to like every Asian culture anyway, but I mean, given that Lunar New Year just started, it would have been maybe nice to have it out this month for that. But random May is as good a time as any anyway. So
better just it happen at some point than never.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe they can do other spotlights like this where they highlight another group or another. Maybe like a book, featuring like, oh, here's all the gay characters we have at DC, and let's celebrate them and have gay creators do stories.
They've kind of been having other history of the DC universe, which has been covering a lot of the black characters.
So next up, we got another one shot. This is an interesting one that kind of also just popped up. This is Stargirl Spring Break Special, written by Jeff Johns with art by Todd Nuck. So this is a 48-page one shot, $6 book out the first week of May. And I'll just read the text here just to start us off here. Obviously, Johns is still working on the show. Season 2 of the show is presumably going to be sometime this summer. It's listed as a summer show. So Courtney Whitmore's spring break plans aren't like your average high schoolers. Instead of hanging out with friends, she's heading out on an adventure with her stepfather Pat Dugan, aka Stripe, and teaming up with his former team, the Seven Soldiers of Victory. The soldiers are forced to reunite again to unearth the secret 8th Soldier of Victory, but what other secrets lie buried, and what does it all mean for Courtney's future as Stargirl? So that last line there is the most interesting part to me, because them even sort of saying, what does this mean for the future of Stargirl? It could be nothing, but it could also mean that there is some sort of future in mind.
I mean, definitely something for Courtney. Whether or not that's Stargirl or not remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Do the Seven Soldiers play into the show? So I still haven't seen it.
The Shining Knights there.
Okay.
There's a reference to them existing. Right. Through that. There's like a photo of them at one point, so they may be more relevant later. But
I'm just saying, this is like the most John's thing where he takes something that normally, is tangentially related to the character, and then like, well, there's 7 Soldiers of Victory. What if there was an 8th? And we just never knew about it. And that comes from a place of love, because I love John's, right? But like, that this is the 7 kingdoms of Atlantis, and the 7 the 7 emotional spectrum core.
I mean, if this is leading to a mini or something that Johns is going to write, whether it's a Stargirl mini, whether it's a 7 Soldiers mini, whether it's just something else that's got a name, then that's cool. That's exciting. I like the idea of getting a Jeff Johns story later in the year.
I would actually not be surprised if it's not a Jeff Johns thing that's coming up, and more this is him handing off the character to say, hey, someone else can, take the reins with her now, because he has still been the predominant voice for her over the years.
I mean, predominant, some would say only. But also she popped up.
I mean, she's popped up here or there, I'm sure.
I mean, we realistically weren't really expecting any Jeff Johns books announcements for a long time, so that's just kind of popped up and was like, oh, a Jeff Johns book of some kind. This is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were expecting maybe this one issue with Stargirl, because we did talk about how she's got that story in the Infinite Frontier one shot, and and that led us to some speculation. Maybe they're going to follow up on that, because it seemed random to just throw in a Stargirl story by Johns in that.
That said, though, I still feel like that only being for this one shot still feels a bit light. like giving her a slot in that comic makes you feel like there's a bigger plan than just a one shot in May and that's it. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll be Johns that's doing it, admittedly, beyond this. It could be anything. Could just be she's going to team up with the JSA when they show up or something, I don't know. But yeah, so Stargirl Spring Break specials out in May. And maybe him just doing these random one-shots that all kind of connect over time is maybe what he can fit into his schedule, given that he's running a TV show now. I don't know.
Along with something else that's coming up in the Solicits.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure the other thing that's coming up later in the Solicits, he finished writing like 3 years ago. So, next up, Justice League Last Ride issue 1. This is another digital first, coming out in May. And this is, interestingly, Chip Zdarsky writing with Miguel Medoncha on the art. So this is another one where I looked at it and went, oh, we definitely have to talk about this on the show. Whatever format it makes sense for us to talk about it in, we have to check out Zdarsky's Justice League. Why wouldn't we do it?
This is another one where it's 2 digital chapters per print issue.
So we'll tackle it when the print issue comes out as if we're reading the print, even if we're reading it digitally, which some of us might be, some of us might not be. But
and for anyone who is reading it digitally or plans to read it digitally, April 14th this starts.
So I have really enjoyed what I've read of his Daredevil. I am all about reading some Zdarsky DC material. So I'm curious. So here's the description for this one, because obviously this is just a standalone story. Once the most powerful group in the world, the Justice League was destroyed by tragedy and time, disbanding under a veil of mistrust and anger. Now, on the eve of the universe's greatest murder trial, the League must come together one last time. But can Superman and Batman bury the past before the cosmos' greatest villain buries them? So it's kind of a Justice League Returns story, I guess, from that.
Kind of. Obviously, something has gone bad between Superman and Batman. And this is the sort of thing where if this was a continuity book, we'd all be so annoyed. But hey, it's just a random digital first. Do what you want.
Yeah.
But it's also Zdarsky. So it's not like he doesn't do tried and true, right? No, like he might send up certain things, but it's not going to be what we think it is. You know, from what I've read about his Daredevil, you know.
Very good.
It's very Daredevil, but it's also Daredevil you've never read before, which is nice. Yeah, so.
Yeah, so no, I'm actually kind of pumped to see what Zdarsky does with Justice League. It kind of feeds into, again, that they're expanding the prominence of their digital books, and that we do kind of have to start paying attention to them a little bit more than we have done in the past.
It does feel like they've got like 2 separate types of digital books now, because you've got the ones that are just the ongoing anthology, like here's an issue of just, they've got, I think there's a Harley Quinn one going right now, and the Superman one's going, just, here's a random issue this week. And then you've got, on the opposite end of the scale, these, which are, okay, here's what could have been just a 6-issue mini or 8-issue miniseries in this case, or 6 issues in some of the others, could have just been a traditional miniseries, but they're choosing to publish them digital first. Maybe it's that they're smaller; they don't want to oversaturate the market with too many books at once. I don't know, but I'm really interested to see how it pans out.
Oh yeah, a couple of years ago, this was just been a mini. You don't put this writer on a book, and sort of. Like, this writer on this book makes it feel like a proper thing that could have sold a mini, and probably will still sell a mini in its physical form, but this shows that they're treating the digital like a more of a it's not just the offshoot.
Talent towards it. It's not just, here's some random stuff. Because like you say, this is, one, it's Justice League, so a Justice League book would probably sell well enough just on that alone, and Zdarsky's a reasonably liked name in the industry. Yeah.
So...
But no, and I'm sure he had the idea for it. This doesn't seem like it came from editorial being like, hey, Chip, you have a Batman versus Superman end of the Justice League story?
Although I can imagine, funny you should say that.
Yeah. Well, I can see him going, hey, it'd be cool if you guys let me tell the story. And they go, you know what? Go ahead. It's digital first, though. So whatever you do can be easily undone. But my favorite thing about Chip still is that he would sign for Stan Lee's signature. If you wanted his signature, it was free. But if you wanted Stan's, it cost $2 or something like that. It's hilarious.
That's pretty funny. I also think it's the case of where, because they are shifting more towards digital, you are feeling the actual original print books are, if you're not counting the books that are digital first as well, the line has shrunk a bit. So unless you actually want to be really narrowing down your options for reading, you kind of have to start paying attention to these books that were digital first.
I think definitely if you want the smaller side stories, like obviously this one, I think if Deceased started now, as opposed to 2 years ago, whenever that was, a year and a half, it would probably be a digital first.
I think that's the important thing, is that some of these may end up being the most like exciting books that are out in the months they're coming out, because as we Deceased was like a highlight for its duration, and I think this is kind of the point, is that we have to stop thinking of digital being the separate kind of we have to pay attention to, it's not important. Like, no, some of the best minis might be coming out of digital now, so but yeah, so that's Justice League Last Ride, issue 1. And then what we were alluding to earlier with Jeff Johns, Batman Earth 1 Volume 3, with Gary Frank and John Seibel on art, is finally coming out in that'll be June. I'm trying to process the American way you write the date. It's June.
I have to think about it as well.
June.
Deceased Hope at World's End hardcover, as mentioned earlier, is coming out. That's down the a bunch more of those original graphic novels, the teen stuff. We got I Am Not Starfire. It's a really funny title.
Well, about the World's End thing, do you think because it's in hardcover first, it's going to be that wide screen style? Because that's how that book was.
It could be. Well, it probably has dimensions here.
It would have mentioned it if it was a different trim.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, don't mention it. Yeah,
it doesn't. But I was just thinking about that because it was one of those books that was widescreen format in digital. But anyways, but I'm Not Starfire. This is hilarious.
This is the one that's about Starfire's daughter, basically just trying to be like, get out of her mother's shadow.
Yeah, so this is Mariko Tamaki writing with Yoshi Ushitanu on the art. So I just thought it was funny because of the running Starfire joke.
This is one I've seen like guys our age complain about, and I want to tell them, you don't have to read it. Like, it's not
it's not for you. That's okay.
If you want to read it, go ahead. But if you don't, don't complain that this exists when it's not for you. Because I know my niece who loves Starfire, this is something that's probably going to be on her radar. And, to know that, that's really cool. That there is something for her, you know? And maybe I'll read it before I give it to her. I don't know.
Yeah, that's I Am Not Starfire and Preacher. Those 2 books for Matt's niece.
And wait, Preacher?
He was really trying to think, what's the most extreme one I can think of off the top of my head?
It's probably not the most extreme one, but it's definitely the first one that put it in my head. Definitely for a mature audience.
Yeah.
So then we're at the rest of the regular books, back sort of into, I mean, the order's still a bit all over the place, but I mean, we're at regular book territory now. Action Comics 1031 and Superman 31, both by Johnson, both have backup still. So Warworld Rising Part 2 in Action Comics is the main story, and The One Who Fell Part 2 is the main story in Superman. Notably, because if you remember, March's issues of each are a 2-part story that cross over between the 2 books, whereas then in April going on, it's the book at their own arcs. So
they're split. Yeah.
So that's just keeping that going, making it very obvious.
And the backup in Superman is Jimmy Olsen one. Did we know about that from last month, or is that new for this month? I don't remember it.
Oh, I can't remember now. I can't remember.
No, I think we knew about it because it was the Tales of Metropolis, and I think we thought it might be the Jimmy Olsen stuff.
Okay.
But it's got Gangbuster and Loose Cannon, it also says, so I'm sure it'll be like one of these revolving door style ones.
It mentions it's Jimmy trying to build a backup Justice League squad, basically, for Metropolis.
Man.
Yeah,
makes me miss Fraction's Jimmy book, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, backup story in Actions by Becky Cloonan. Backup story in Superman is by Sam Basri. So, Sean Lewis. Sorry, yeah. Like the new formats throw me off here. Right, they're on the same line. I need to process it. So it's just Superman books for me. American Vampire 1976 issue 8. It's coming out. Batman 108. Joe, I'm still getting used to these being monthly now. There's no like 2 Batman issues in the Solicits anymore. It's weird. But it's good because it opens up the opportunity to actually try out other books like these digital books, because otherwise we might be too bogged down. So I don't know what to say unless you want to dive into the text itself, but I mean, just the next part.
We mentioned before, it's the Miracle Molly debut.
Miracle Molly, yeah. I feel like if I was being cynical, and after what happened with Punchline, I feel like Tynan has developed a thing going like, hey, I can gen up some extra money by creating these new characters. But after reading his newsletter, I know that's definitely not the.
Yeah, I can definitely see just from an outside perspective why it can look like that, but I don't believe.
I don't think he's not after reading that breakdown of how he feels the comic industry is with the different tiers.
Yeah, this feels like a genuine attempt to move forward rather than let's make some money.
Right. So.
Yeah, Batman Black and White issue 6 is next. Anthology issue. It's a final issue as well. Yeah.
Hey, someone wants to make Connor read that just first story. It's Snyder and JR. So.
Yeah, but then there's a Nick Darrington story after that. And
I know, but don't pay attention to that. Just pay him to read the Snyder and JR one.
Well, it's funny because it's kind of, I mean, we've kind of had almost an unwritten rule that for the Patreon books that once you're over annual size, which will stretch to 50 pages, like beyond that it's too big for that because obviously it's just there's too much reading. And this is actually just under that, but I do love the idea of like an anthology coming out where someone really wants you to read like the 2 really bad stories, so they just say, no, I'm going to pay for the book, but these you can read the rest if you want, but I'm not paying for that. I'm paying for these 2 stories. It's these 2 you need to read. It's really funny to me.
It could happen, I suppose.
Yeah. Next up, so obviously the news here is the title change for this next one. So Tom Taylor's Batman book was called Batman the Dark Knight last month, but it's been changed to Batman the Detective. Obviously the first issue reflects that change too. So issue 2, of course, coming out in May. I kind of like it just because it feels a bit more unique, and it's not confusing because there's like 2 or 3 other series that have been called Batman the Dark Knight. I kind of like now that I can just say Batman the Detective, and I think
part of it as well is they're launching this Legends of the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So they're like,
well, there's that, and then you read what the blurb's about, and they bring up Henry Ducard, and that's in canon, that's who he learned detective skills from, so
it does make me
leaning into that side is cool.
It makes me think that maybe they want to reuse the title as well, like not the other one, but this one, as Batman the Detective. Maybe there'll be a second arc. I know this is still technically listed as a mini, but maybe there'll be another one with someone else as a team, but using that title again.
We know that Taylor likes to do mini stories like this, where he takes a break in between, like just like a deceased. So maybe I'll have like Batman the Detective, whatever. So
alternative,
but no, it's cool.
Yeah, alternative, I could totally see Taylor coming back and doing a sequel, but it'll be called something else. Like it'll be Batman the something, and it'll be relevant to whatever the story is for the second story. Because I don't know, it's a possibility. Batman Catwoman issue 6, continuing the Tom King 12-issue book. That's out in May. Phantasm right there on the cover, which is nice to see. Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 2. I forgot this was a thing from last month, but there we go. Batman Superman issue 18, Jean Ling Yang, Ivan Reis. That's continuing on. Batman Urban Legends issue 3, continuing. This is of course the $8 anthology Gotham book with various stories. Is there? I don't think there's any new ones yet. I think it's just the 3 that have been going.
The Outsiders one's ending this issue though, so there should be a new one next month.
Yeah, so obviously we still have the Grifter one, which will be Rosenberg, because that's just been doing that. Because technically he's already been doing it in the backups. In fact, we have one this week to talk about. We got the Red Hood story and the Outsiders one. The Outsiders one's ending, so we'll presumably have at least one new story out of the 3 in June's batch, which would be cool. I'm interested to see what it is. I am generally enjoying the Outsiders story that we've had so far. I'm enjoying, surprisingly, the Grifter one's all right. So
I just like Outsiders. I think that's just a title that I enjoy, and since they brought it back in Rebirth, in the pages of Detective Comics first, right? It's been pretty solid.
It's interesting that these Outsiders, the 2 issues we've had it in Future State, and then this coming up has made me want to go back and retry the Outsiders books. I never thought it was bad. I just kind of didn't love it. But I mean, maybe I'll burn through it just because obviously in that they refer back to characters, and maybe they will in this part of the story as well.
Yeah, maybe.
And I'm sure it's all on DC Universe by now.
If it's not, it will be soon.
More than likely.
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 are still left to go up, but it'll be a bit. yeah, so keep in mind this is a 64-page book, so this is like 3 full-sized issues of stories, so they're all full-sized chapters.
Which does make the price feel reasonable because it's only $8.
Yeah.
As opposed to if these were all separate books and you wanted all 3, it would have been 12.
12. Yeah, you're basically getting like buy 2 get 1 free, but you have to get the 3. You can't just get 1.
As long as you like 2 of the stories in it, you can feel like you got your money's worth.
Yes. There you go. So that's Urban Legends issue 3. Catwoman 31, continuing Ram V's run. Obviously, we're super pumped on that, so that's cool. Challenge of the Super Sons issue 2. This is another one that's reprinting the digital first book. So there you go. That's still Tomasi as well. Crime Syndicate issue 3, that miniseries, which is not started yet, so we still don't have an opinion on this as if it's good or not. Obviously, we want it to be good, but we don't know yet. So, but hopefully it is. Detective Comics 1036. Continuing Tamaki's run.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Huntress backup story, which is continuing from the previous one, but
yeah, I think Huntress is the main story as well.
Yeah, I just had the thought now of Clayton Henry drawing Huntress's like headpiece.
It's gonna be so long.
How massive? Yeah, how massive it's gonna look.
Yeah, because he's doing the backup. Dan Moore is still the main artist on the book, but yeah, no, I'm excited for Huntress to be sort of back in the fray for a little bit. She's been kind of absent for a while, and I feel like she was relegated to the weird Birds of Prey for the New 52, and then since then
gone.
Yeah. Oh, she hasn't
really done anything.
She was in Batgirl on the Birds of Prey, which was again also kind of short-lived and not super like notable.
Yeah. I'm just glad they rectified the whole Grayson version of her with, the other Elena Bertinelli.
Yeah.
It's more traditional. Like, that's a character that I feel, I don't know, like a backup might be a perfect place for her. But like, throw her in that Gotham one once they're done with this.
Sure.
I would definitely read that.
I mean, I think that's the thing about that anthology, because there's so much potential of giving characters who would never get their own books like a 3 or 4 issue arc.
Just throw in whoever you want, see what sticks, see what gets a good reception.
Yeah.
And then, if there is a lot of positive reception to one story, you can give them a separate mini.
I almost wish there was a second one that wasn't specifically Superman, but was maybe just a second one for other non-Bat characters to try other characters.
Like a Justice League branded.
I think that's kind of where we're getting a lot of the digital first stories for. Rather than lumping them into one anthology, they're just digital first.
Yeah, but anthology books are kind of cool that way. Like, if you don't mind the bigger price point, right? But the fact that you can go in there and it's almost like a grab bag, I kind of like that. If there's because I kind of wanted that for the Flash for a while. There's so many Flash characters that haven't been used.
Yeah, it's basically how all British comics are done as well. So
the main Flash book, hell, the main Green Lantern book could be this, because we've got like 7 or 8 Earth Green Lanterns now. I mean, you could easily have like 3 ongoing Green Lantern stories at a time in one book.
Yeah, or even if they want to play it safe, have one that's just whichever main lantern you want at the time, and then have your second lantern book be the anthology.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, if you go back to when there was like 3 or 4 Lantern books, like imagine if that was just one big book that came out every month and they were all just packaged together. It wouldn't have always been for the best, because sometimes the other ones weren't as good, but there's some. Anyway, the Dreaming Waking Hours issue 10 is coming out. The Flash 770, which I'm still very skeptical about.
I'm really annoyed because I really hate everything that it's saying, and then the solicit text every issue, but then I'm like, oh, it's got Jay on the cover.
Jay's on the cover, yeah. On the variant as well. He's on both.
Don't look at the variant cover, because you'll get flashbacks to New 52.
Too late.
Yeah. It's a bummer.
Green Lantern issue 2. Up in there in this one as well. We'll see how it is. Again, this is a backup.
For some reason, the cover still says issue 1.
So it does. Obviously, it's just a typo. But
yeah, I'm sure they'll fix that by the time it releases.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if
that variant looks fantastic.
The Joe one? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's neat. That's neat.
She's upon us.
Yeah, as much as we didn't like the Future State book, I'm going to try issue 1 with a real positive chance, because I really want a good Green Lantern book. So they're getting a fair chance for issue 1. They really are. And the exercise art won't certainly hurt it.
Marcus Santucci on art as well, though, in this issue?
For the backup, I think, yeah.
Is that just the backup?
Well, I don't know. I assume so.
No, it doesn't seem like there is a
It's a 40-page book. Maybe it's
That's
just one.
funny. It's actually really interesting because it doesn't mention a backup in the solicit
No.
text.
Oh, maybe it is just a rare case of they're just giving all 40 pages to the one story.
Well, but it's Soy and Santucci, so unless Santucci's filling in certain pages, you know what I mean?
Or maybe we'll cut to all Lantern in a different sector, so they'll use that to excuse the art change or something. I don't know. But yeah, they're bringing Joe Mullen into the main Green Lantern book. I mean, obviously we mentioned the cover, but like it straight up says in the text, like she's going to get involved with the other Lanterns now. So it is exciting that they're doing that because we've enjoyed her introduction. Your mic's going.
Matt, your mic's going.
Way ahead of you, Connor.
I mean, you weren't way ahead of me. It came through at the exact same time as I was saying it.
I was ahead of you on my end. The recording will show that. Yes, let the recording show.
What's next?
that Connor was late. Harley Quinn issue 3. That's still going. Was that a hand gesture from Connor there that I just caught in the side of my eye?
No, nothing.
That
is such an ugly cover, isn't it?
The Harley. Oh yeah, it's absolutely. It's basically disgusting, quite frankly.
It bums me out that it's Ross Mullen art because reading the text, it seems like I would enjoy the story if not for the art. So,
me too,
yes.
Matt.
This is a CR21 infected issue.
It is.
Of the comic
it
book.
is.
Yeah. Joker issue 3 coming out. Again, back up with Punchline. You know, nothing much to add really. Continuation, tying on the main book or main story. He's also in the backup with Sam Johns. Justice League 61, continuing Bendis' Justice League is out. Obviously, Ram V still doing Justice League Dark in the backup. So cool. Yeah, don't have much to say. Looney Tunes 260, they're still doing that. Of course, Mad Magazine issue 20, still doing that. Man-Bat issue 4, continuing the mini, and this is one of these cases where I'm happy to say that now that we've had issue 1, we're actually feeling quite good about this, and we're...
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you guys realize this was 5 issues and not 6?
I don't think I did, no, but it is 5, so...
It is. I was under the impression it was 6. I don't know if maybe something's changed or if we just forgot.
We may have just forgot. If it did change, it wouldn't be surprising if it changed in that long gap before it got resolicited finally, because it, you know... at which point, I'm sure it was written to fit 5 issues.
I would like to think so, yes. They haven't just scrapped one issue. For you guys.
There'll be a cliffhanger at the end of issue 5.
Or it's just missing what was issue 5. They just jumped straight to 6.
Next Batman Second Son issue 2, second of 4 issues of the digital first. This is one where they're bundling, I think, 3 chapters per physical issue. So again, we're going to be checking this out because we've been really digging the Future State story. So that's issue 2 coming out in May. We got Nightwing issue 80 continuing Taylor's run. Looking forward to that. That cover's gorgeous.
What a variant.
I was talking about the main cover. What's the variant look like? The variant's very nice too. Yeah.
Jamal Campbell on the variant is just
that variant is poster worthy.
It is,
and not just because the Superman S shirt.
I was going to say the Superman shirt at the front is a nice touch.
No, yeah, but just the logo in the shape that he's making.
For anyone who's not seeing this, Nightwing is basically doing a handstand with one arm on a clothesline, and then with his feet, he's kicking up the. Physically, I mean, physics says this is impossible, but by the by. But he's basically with his feet making the top of the Nightwing logo so that there's like an opening between the 2 clotheslines making the Nightwing logo in the sort of the early morning sky of I was going to say Gotham and then Metropolis.
No, Bloodhaven.
Is it Bloodhaven? Okay. I don't know, maybe he went to Metropolis for an issue. I don't know. There's a Superman shirt in the foreground.
People still like Superman in Bloodhaven, I'm sure.
But it's a knockoff shirt that they got from like a dodgy street vendor.
So half the ones in Metropolis.
Still a shirt. It still wears the same.
Other the DC Universe issue 4 is out. I was gonna say wrapping up. That's a 5 issue, but I thought it was 4 for some reason. Okay, there's one more. We got Robin issue 2. That's the Joshua Williamson run that started in April. So that's still going. Rorschach issue 8 is coming out in May. Ruby Justice League issue 2. This Ruby thing still a thing. Sensational Wonder Woman issue 3. This is the digital first collection, which is obviously starting next month. When I say starting next month, I mean the collections are the print issues are starting next month.
I'm pretty sure the digitals are on like issue 3 or 4 already.
Yeah. Strange Adventures issue 10. So we'll be nearing the end of that in May. Well, that'll be ending in July. Strange Adventures.
Is that the most drastically different that their covers have been yet for that book?
I think so. I mean, thematically there's a similar idea between them, but they are very different. I wonder if that's maybe a sign that there's something in the story is going to justify why they're getting more different.
Someone asked Shaner who comes up with the ideas, because they were putting up, this week was artists putting up like the sketch and then the final product. Yes. And someone asked Shaner who picks like the design, because his sketch for the first issue was slightly off, right? It was a different angle. And he says, "Oh no, we do. Me and Mitch get together and decide what we're going to do. And then we go from there." And it really is collaborative. And so this one, that's ultimately what it feels like that they both went like, we're going to do like this red and blue thing, but we're going to make it diverge even more. So,
yeah. It's interesting.
Really cool.
I just mentioned it because obviously all their covers have been similar takes on the same idea, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So that's that. Suicide Squad issue 3 coming out, and I feel bad for Suicide Squad because it's basically for us, we've basically just called it DOA.
I'm actively annoyed at it now, though.
Yep, me too.
I assume that's because it's crossing over with the next book, which is Teen Titans Academy issue 3.
Yeah, it's basically just ensured I'm not reading Teen Titans Academy. Because if you're going to cross over with a book that I know I'm not reading, before I've even read the first issue of this book, I'm not putting down my money to try it, to have to maybe drop it 2 or 3 issues in. It's just not a good look.
Yeah. It depends how much of a crossover it is. Like, if it's just, Suicide Squad are appearing and they're calling it a crossover, that's whatever.
I think it's an actual multi-part, because they're both crossing over with each other. And you can see the Teen Titans Academy cover actually has 2 members of Suicide Squad front and center.
Yeah, but I'm playing devil's advocate for it in general. Like, like the end of Man-Bat issue 1 saying Suicide Squad is going to be here next issue. The Suicide Squad are appearing, but it's not a crossover with another book. It's just
right. I think, and this is kind of just. It's not even just that I dislike the idea of the Suicide Squad book. I'm not interested in it. I think it's just really bad practice to do a crossover in your first few issues. I mean, if you can't even give me a trade's worth, that's already not a good sign. But if you're soliciting issues before I've even read the first one, that's particularly bad.
Yeah, I don't mind it after an arc. Like, I think, back at the start of Rebirth, when they did the Night of the Monsters with Batman, Nightwing, Detective, after they all had their first arc, and then they did that for 2 issues each. Like, I was fine with that. But I mean, it doesn't help that I am not interested in the Suicide Squad book at all. And then Teen Titans Academy, while I want to like it, well, let's just say this week's Future State issue did not fill me with confidence in the matter. So,
Yep.
Which
means I have more time to read something else. So
that's true. That's true.
If I had any doubts about certain other books, then that's gone now.
Superman Red and Blue issue 3, continuing the black and white style anthology with Superman. Then the Swamp Thing issue 3, Ram V continuing his book.
Multiple Ivies.
I'm excited. Get it, Ram.
I feel we're gonna get to the end of this issue, and Matt's gonna be like, I got rammed in the heart. See what I did there?
No, the reason I'm reading Catwoman now is because he's bringing Ivy in, so this is a good sign. I feel there's some respect for Ivy here.
Oh dear.
That's the reason. Not the extremely high quality and everyone raving about it. It's, I guess if you do an Ivy.
That took part, but when Pete was, you were gone because your computer was dead, and he's covering that issue and goes, oh, and then Selena walks in and Ivy's there, and I went, son of a bitch. I'm gonna have to read this now. I can't deny it anymore.
Truth and Justice issue 4 is out, continuing that. And then, of course, we have Wonder Woman 772 coming out. And again, has a backup, which is...
cover.
That Middleton cover is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Stuff storybooks are made out of, right? Like...
It looks like it could be the cover for one of the Grimm fairy tale or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not always into Vision's faces. I do think the environment and everything else in that cover is very pretty, though.
That's because it's Middleton, not Prison.
Yeah.
Ah, fair point. It's always
Yes.
Frozen. It's always Frozen doing the Wonder Woman covers, alright? It's not my fault. They swapped
Yeah,
it out.
no. I get it there. But at the same time, man, it's a good cover.
Yeah. So there you go. That is the books. One thing that's maybe worth mentioning if you're a trade reader, is that the first batch of Future State trades are coming out in these solicits.
It's a lot meatier than I expected.
They're pretty meaty. What's interesting about it though, and I feel bad for this, is that the Future State Justice League trade, I would say that this has Future State Justice League, which I think is worth reading, and then it has lots of other things that I do not think are worth reading. So it's quite unfortunate if you really want to read Justice League. You're stuck with all this other stuff that isn't that good. Because it's Future State Justice League 1-2, The Flash 1-2, Green Lantern 1-2, and Aquaman 1-2. And those were weirdly interesting at best to outright terrible at worst. So
Yeah, I think out of those, Aquaman first issue was the only one we all kind of went, I mean, it's okay.
it's got some ideas. It wasn't really good all in, but it did have some interesting things to at least talk about.
Yeah.
Whereas Green Lantern we just went into at all, and Flash was just
Yeah, I think the other books so far fare a lot better.
yeah. Obviously, next Batman trade comes with the next Batman 1-4 comes with select stories from Dark Detective 1-4.
What are they leaving out, do you think?
And Future State Nightwing. I assume something from Dark Detective fits better with something else, and that's why it's not here. So it must be one of the.
Because what's in the Dark Detective has the Grifter story and
Unless it has all the backups from Dark Detective, but the main story from Dark Detective is going with something else because of all the magistrate stuff it's doing. Fits better with something else.
possible.
Because notably, this is not Future State Batman. This is Future State the next Batman. So it could be that all the Dark Detective stuff is elsewhere.
And I would say so far these are all things that link in with the next Batman. Like Nightwing has that Batman in there, and so I wonder if maybe there's a link in that.
Yeah. Then Future State Superman has Superman of Metropolis, Superman Worlds of War, Imperious Lex, Kara Superwoman, Legion of Superheroes 1-2, and Superman House of L, which is that one shot that we've not had yet. So yeah, and that's all the ones that have been in so far. But that obviously there is other Future State books that aren't there. That said, though, I do wonder if some of them, like I wonder if the Swamp Thing 2 issue will just go with the first trade of Ram v Swamp Thing, because it'll thematically tie with that, and it doesn't really fit anywhere else to go as a collection.
It's possible, but I think it will probably be in a more random collection, because otherwise I would have expected the backups from the Justice League book to be in with his Justice League Dark trade next.
They may still be there.
I mean, they might.
It's not the first time they've doubled up.
Yeah, but I mean, like some of these, that Superman one is like 450 pages. That's a very meaty paperback.
Yeah.
I think they've probably done the math and they've realised that selling a thicker book makes them more money and more people buy the full book. Whereas if you sell it as like 3 different trades, a lot of people will buy the first one but won't bother, hardly any will buy 2 and 3. So they'll make more money by selling one thicker trade. Even if technically per page they're making less money, they're actually making more money in general.
It's very possible.
Would be my guess. There's not really anything super interesting in the trades, I don't think. They're doing more Absolute Swamp Thing by Moore.
Yeah, Batman Damned getting a paperback release now.
Yeah. Flash by Mark Waid, book 8, Solicited, so that's, they're still finishing off that run, which is nice. Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically it. There's a second Tales from Dark Multiverse hardcover featuring the weird second wave that we had.
The ones that we opted out of.
Yes, after we read one of them and went, this is not as good as the first time, let's just leave.
This is a particularly weird collection because they felt like maybe it wasn't big enough, even though it's still fairly meaty with just those one shots. But it's like plus the stories that inspired these tales. Like, so you got Flashpoint issue 1, Crisis on Infinite Earths issue 12, like just one issue from these stories.
Yeah, which is stupid. Weird. Like Flashpoint issue 1 on its own is nothing. Like you have to read the whole arc.
Imagine reading Crisis on Infinite Earths 12 and nothing else from that story.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That is your solicits for May. Some interesting stuff in there. For the most part, though, I'm still just kind of excited for all this stuff going forward from March onwards. All these new runs / new books / whatever. Was good. So there you go.